to remember to never lose your authenticity. And what do I mean by that? I feel like in today's society, in the world today, a lot of people are or make decisions based on what is socially normalized or what will appease the masses instead of being authentically themselves. I mean, I think some people just love attention and so they'll go out of their way to, I don't know, rebel in order to get negative attention, because you can get positive or negative attention. Any type of attention, I suppose, will do. But aside from that, just never lose your authenticity. Never lose your ability to be radically who you are in a world where everyone is playing pretend. And it's so important to realize this. I mean, first of all, I feel like you need to do a certain degree of internal work just so that you can reconnect with the true essence of who you are, and knowing what you want, knowing what you don't want, knowing what you will tolerate, knowing what you won't tolerate. And then from there, finding your voice and being able to discern with your own mind instead of the hive mind, like just doing that inner work so that you are very solid and firm within yourself. And then from there, you can access that place of authenticity. I mean, even if you haven't done a lot of self work, I just feel like you'll get nudges. Your intuition or your gut will let you know when something is off. Your body will let you know if you're listening to it. And these are very, very subtle telltale signs. But once you get, I want to say, a good sense of direction and a good idea of who you are authentically, I think we should exercise that. And it's important. I mean, obviously, when to, you pick and choose your battles. So you don't want to just constantly be, in people's faces about stuff. But if somebody is doing something that goes against your values or you know, your soul's values, your soul's values, and standards, I think it's important to speak up on it for a number of reasons. The first reason is a lot of people are probably not aware that they're doing that. And by us not speaking up, we're almost enabling them to continue this behavior. We're not giving them the opportunity to change. A second reason is say people are manipulating you. It's almost like giving them the approval that we will allow this kind of behavior instead of calling the manipulator out and letting him know that you're onto them so they can't mess with you. And then the third reason is because when the people around you see you operating from an authentic space, you give them the ability to also see that they can operate authentically. It's like a ripple effect. And I know a lot of times people are afraid, but I'm telling you, fear is the mind killer, guys. Like, fear is the consciousness killer. It limits your ability to empower yourself, to empower others, to grow as a person, to allow others to grow. And that's why being authentic in a very false world, especially during these times, so important. It's going to radically transform consciousness on a mass scale if we do our part and we operate from a very authentic space. Let me give you examples. So, like, At one of my jobs, we had a manager, and the manager was very authoritarian, I suppose, and people were afraid of him, like afraid of talking to him, afraid of approaching him, afraid of him approaching them. And anytime he'd approach them, they would just kind of like cower and bow down and just be like, "Oh yes, yes sir, yes, yes, yes boss, yes." And for me, I was just like, I would, I would, I would just call this boss out, honestly. And I was coming from a very authentic space. Like for instance, he would tell me to like, I don't know. He'd basically point out things that I maybe wasn't doing correctly. And I would say, well, I wasn't properly trained. So how do you expect me to do this correctly? And then, after recognizing a habitual pattern, like this is how he communicates with his employees, I straight up said, the way you communicate to people brings morale down. People feel like they're not supported. They feel like you're nitpicking and pointing out everything they're doing wrong. So, I mean, who would want to come to work with someone constantly pushing you down instead of supporting you? And I just like say stuff. And I don't do it for me, just for me. I do it for everyone. Because obviously, if everyone is allowing this person to treat them in such a way and they're not saying anything, I think by me stepping up and nipping things in the bud, it's bringing these issues and problems and imbalances to my manager's attention so that he has opportunities to self-correct, and he also has opportunities to understand why the dynamic in the workplace exists. But by playing small and not speaking up and not being yourself when obviously something is wrong, like I said, you're enabling that, and you're not really activating any type of change. Change is uncomfortable, and sometimes you gotta do uncomfortable things, and being authentic in a very false world is one of those. I will walk out of places that I feel disrespected at. Like I know some people will like hang on to jobs because they're like, oh, I need this job. No, if somebody is not treating me right and I don't feel like I am being supported, and I feel like the vibes are not good and it's killing my soul, I will go. Sometimes I will try to repair or like bring up issues, but if I continually bring up issues and nothing is getting resolved, at that point again it's like beating a dog with a stick, which I would never do, by the way. It just leads nowhere. And at that point it's like, okay, I tried and that's all I can do, and now I'm gonna remove myself from this very, like, I don't want to say toxic. Man, I don't know what to say. It's just elementary minded workspace where people are just not treating each other well because of their lack of experience, maybe. I don't know.